In the small town of Lakeview, surrounded by dense forest and fog-filled hills, there were rumors of a creepy werewolf. It was a place where the nights were darker, and the sounds of the forest sometimes seemed ominous. The town lived its measured rhythm until one winter night when everything changed. The main character, Jack Peterson, was an ordinary guy who worked at the local store and took the same road home every night. He always felt that the woods around him were full of mysteries, but he never believed in tales of monsters. One day, after a long day of work, he decided to take a walk in the woods to clear his head. The sky was covered with clouds and the wind whistled between the trees as if predicting something terrible. As Jack went deeper into the forest, he noticed that it had become unusually quiet. Even the sounds of nocturnal animals had disappeared. Suddenly he heard a faint howl that made him freeze. It was unlike the sound a normal dog might make. Jack felt goosebumps run down his back. He decided to turn back, but at that moment he was stopped by a sharp sound. As if someone or something had rushed past him, panic gripped him and he ran towards the exit of the forest. Suddenly a huge shadow appeared in front of him, as if out of nowhere. It was a creature with long, sharp fangs and fur like a wolf. Jack froze with fear, his heart pounding in his chest. He realized that he was witnessing the legend that the locals so often spoke of. The creature roared, and Jack gathered all his strength and sprinted away. He couldn't believe this was really happening. He ran without looking back until he reached his house. With trembling hands, he closed the doors and locked the windows, feeling the terror seep into every cell of his body. The next day, Jack told his friends what had happened, but they only laughed, thinking he was making it up. Soon, however, strange things began to happen in Lakeview. Locals began to go missing. Every time someone disappeared, someone else claimed to have heard howling in the woods. One day, Jack decided he had to find out the truth. He gathered a group of his friends, Amy, Tom, and Sarah, and they set off into the woods. They armed themselves with flashlights and a little bit of gear. Night shrouded the forest, and the further they went deeper, the more it became apparent that someone was watching them. Suddenly they came upon an old abandoned cabin. Inside they found old photographs and records that spoke of an ancient curse associated with a werewolf. According to legend, every full moon the creature would come out to hunt, and only those who could stop it could save the town. As the friends began to read the notes, the forest was filled with an eerie howl. They realized that the werewolf was close. Fleeing in fear, they rushed back toward the exit, but Jack was left behind when his foot caught on a tree root. He fell, and fear gripped him as he saw a horrible creature emerge from the shadows of the forest. And in that moment, as Jack felt his end was near, he remembered the old ritual he needed to perform to stop the curse. He shouted to his friends, "Run! I can do it!" He gathered all his strength and began to cast the spell he had read on the old records. The werewolf stopped and seemed to start oscillating between two worlds, the human world and the monster world. Jack continued reading, and soon the creature let out a piercing scream that echoed throughout the forest. Suddenly it transformed, and to Jack's horror, he saw that it was his best friend Tom, who had been cursed years ago. In that moment, Jack realized that not only was his town in danger, but his friend's fate depended on him. With the help of his remaining friends, they completed the ritual, and with a final scream, the werewolf disappeared, leaving only silence. The town of Lakeview never felt fear again, but Jack and his friends knew that the darkness could always return. Every full moon, they gathered together to remember that terrible night when they faced the werewolf and became its keepers.